Okay, we're going to look at another way of stopping Monty from walking. If you've seen the method one, the first tutorial, this is another way of doing the same thing. Now the interesting thing about this is it's not just a way of stopping Monty, but it is a very good way of combining one action onto another action. Initially it might seem a little bit unusual, but if you get your head around it, it actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, so first of all, here are two Montys. Now if I play them, you will see that, yeah, they're doing exactly the same thing, but there is one big difference. And this Monty here, the one on the right, his master control is not moving. So they're both walking and his master control isn't moving. Now you might think to yourself, well, what's the big deal if it moves or if it doesn't move? Well, there are some benefits to having these controls moving and not the master control. So in actual fact, so this style of walk cycle where you have the master control, Monty's in actual fact walking on the spot. Now if I was to look at the curves on Monty, for example the body control, and if I was to look at it, I can see that the translate Z of the body control is a straight line. Yeah, it's got lots of points in it, but it's essentially just a straight line, which means that the body is not actually moving at all in the Z. The Z, I'm just going to get rid of those. The Z translation, the forward motion, is exclusively coming from this control, and it's exactly the same for the feet. If I look at the feet, then you can see that what essentially the feet are doing is they're walking on the spot. They're going forward, and then they're going back at a constant speed, then they're going forward. Now if I was to look at the other Monty, this one here, and look at his main control, his body control, well, his body control is doing what you think the body control should be doing. It is moving forward. It's a straight diagonal line at a constant speed. If I look at his feet controls, well, what are they doing? Well, when it's flat on the ground, like there, that is when the feet are not moving, and you would not expect the feet to be, they are not moving in the Z translation there, they are flat, and then they move here. Go back to the feet again, and then, just make them a little bit bigger, and then when the feet land, they're flat here again because they're not moving. So in a sense, these curves on this Monty make a lot of sense in relation to what he is doing. Whereas here we have a kind of illusion. We have a character walking on the spot that when you make the controllers invisible, because the master control is moving forward at exactly the same rate that the legs here are moving backwards, that it looks like the character is walking in exactly the same way. Now, why is this advantageous to have it like this? Well, look, I'll show you one thing that may help you understand. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this Monty here, I'm going to make this one invisible. So I'm just going to go and hide this. Which one is it? This one here. No, not this one. This one. Not this one. This one. Oh, here. Hang on. Not this. 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 That's annoying. I will hide this one. I'm going to go and goes this Monty, this one here, and I'm going to get rid of all these. I'm going to delete layers. I'll delete this layer as well. When you've got too many layers, you don't know what's in them. I'll just put them in again. So I'm going to show nerves curves. I'm just going to select this one, and I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to make it invisible. Now, imagine I want to make this Monty do something other than stop. I mean, you've seen how to make, and you know, that video that I've given you for how to make it stop is very good for, you know, it involves counter animating. So you just you slow down this control and then you rearrange the feet. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but let's say you were doing a more complex action like a jump. Now what would happen, okay, let's say, just to show you one of the issues, I'm going to go to frame 56. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake out all Monty's keys. I'll just turn this off up to 56. I'm just going to select 56 in my timeline. I'm just going to bake this out and go edit, keys, bake simulation. Now, let's just say that beyond, and I'm going to make, with all these keys selected, I'm also going to make sure it's not cycling anymore. So that's another thing. So I'll just go to curves, post infinity, and I'll make sure it is constant. So Monty just stops. Now, imagine I wanted to keep just the head moving forwards. So you've got this moving forward at this rate, and I just want to have this head, the head of Monty, just to show you, moving forward at the same rate. Okay, so now what you don't do, generally speaking, when you're combining animations, is you move this control. I mean, it's okay for doing walking on the spot, but if you're going to do a jump, for example, you wouldn't animate this coming off the ground and then try and rearrange the feet. It's just too involved and too complicated. You don't do that. So what you have to do normally if you're blending, and in most circumstances, you're having to use these controls here. Yeah, either the foot controls, or you're having to use the body controls. So if I was just to move this head forward here, I'll just show you. So I would move it with this control. So I'm going to move it forward, see what it looks like. So let's have a look at this. Actually, let's go forward. Go forward a couple. Okay, so let's see this. Okay, now I would have to imagine I'm trying to make Monty's head go forward at the same pace that is moving. So it's moving at this pace. Is it still and you might argue, well, that's pretty close. It looks like it's moving forward at the same pace. But if I look at the actual curves on the translate Y, what I have is this. Because I've essentially, in order to have the head, the body, move forward at the same speed, but using this control, which hasn't been moved forward in the Z translation so far, you see I have this kind of almost like this jump. And so I really have to, if I was to make him jump or do something or go up and move the feet, I would kind of have to eyeball it, as they say. I would have to do it all visually just to see if I could get it to work. And maybe, and you can do it this way, but a more intuitive way is to have Monty moving in the same way that this character is moving. Yeah? And the reason for that is if, for example, I decide I want to keep the body moving in this one, I'll just I'll go to frame 56 again. I'm just going to get rid of all the animation after frame 56. All of a sudden in this one, if I want to keep it moving, the interesting, I actually didn't delete the animation on this one here, so I'm 56, where is it, 56 here. If I want to just keep it moving here, you'll notice that all I have to do is just, I can see my line here, I can add a point and I can just lift it up. And if it's on the same gradient as this, it's moving forward exactly the same way. Yeah, I can actually use my curve. Yeah. Okay. Now this can become very handy if you're trying to combine two actions together. Okay, so how do I turn this Monty into the kind of Monty where this control is being left behind? Right? So I'm going to show you how to do this. And then I'm going to show you how to make Monty stop when he is in, we call it global space. Now he is in local space because the character's moving forward, but what's motivating it to move forward is this control, so it's kind of like an illusion. But what we're going to do is actually make him move forward on this stage. Yeah. Now the way to do that is you bring in some locators. So what we want to move forward are this control and the 2 feet control. So I'm just going to create 3 locators, and this can press Control D, and this will be the pelvis, and then I'm going to have the left foot, and I'll have the right foot. Okay, now I'll make sure my locators are showable. So I'm going to first of all constrain the pelvis to, I'm just going to make this wireframe so you can see, to the middle of the pelvis control, which is right in the middle of this shape here. So to do that, I select the pelvis control, then I control select the pelvis locator, and I go constrain, parent, and I make sure maintain offset is off, because otherwise it will join to it, but it will still be down here. So I press apply, and you can see it's constrained right in the middle, and these channels, the translate and rotate, have gone blue. Then I'm going to click on my left foot control, click on the left foot locator, constrain, parent, and it's gone to the rear of this. This is obviously where the center point in this control is. It's at the back on the heel. And then I'll click on this and click on the right foot, constrain, parent. Yeah. So now these locators, you see, are locked and moving exactly the same way as these controls. Okay. Now, an interesting thing to point out, in the Monty rig, these are called pull vectors and they control the knees. If I move this control here like this, you'll see that these controls move too, which means that this is a child of this. That means this control controls this. Now in many rigs, these pull vectors, these 2 things here, are parented underneath the master control, which means in some rigs you have to move, you'd have to kind of, and sometimes these pull vectors are even located underneath the body control. But if it's located underneath the master, you will probably have to bring in 2 extra locators and constrain each of those to each of these. Okay, so now we've got the locators in place. I want to get the animation from these controls onto the locators. And the way I'm going to do this, first of all, I'm going to work out how long I want this animation to run for. So I'm going to have Monty walk to about here. Frame 56. There we go, 56. Same as last time, 56. So frame 56. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the locators and I'm just going to bake the animation onto them. So I go Edit, Keys, and I'm going to go to Bake Simulation. And I've got this set at sample at 1. Now if you sample at 1, the animation will be identical to what you have here, but it will put a key in every frame. Now I think because it's quite a basic animation, it might be possible to do it on 2s. So the advantage of doing it on 2s means you get less keys, but maybe you might get a little bit of foot sliding, but I'll show you how to take care of that. So I'm going to do it on 2s, and then I'm just going to, actually I'll do it on 1s and then I'll do it on 2s later. So I'll show you what happens. So first of all, I'm going to do this on 1s because I want exactly the same motion. So I'm going to go Bake, it will run through it, and now if I look at the pelvis, you see I have animation on it. If I look at the right foot, there is animation, and the left foot. So what that means, I'm just going to, for some reason every time I bake stuff, everything becomes visible again, which is a bit annoying. So what that means is that I can actually delete these constraints, which are connecting them to the controls, because the animation is baked out onto the... Oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the polygons off so you can see. Because the animation is... You can see the locators there. Because the animation is baked onto it, that means that even though they're not actually stuck to the controls anymore, they have exactly the same animation, and you can see that there. Yeah, so you can see that the locators are moving in exactly the same way. So what you do now is I can then select on the body control, the main control that's moving forward. One way of getting rid of animation is you can just right click on all the channels you want and then go break connections. You see I've got no animation now in this control here. I'm going to do the same for the body control. Right click, break connections, and then on the 2 feet here I'm going to do the same thing. Sorry, I'm going to make sure I select them, that one and that one. I'm gonna leave these, the toe roll, the heel roll, because the information that has been baked onto locators is only the translate and rotate. It doesn't have this information, so I don't want to get rid of that. So I right click on this and I go break connections again. Okay, now I do the reverse. I'm going to take the pelvis locator, which has the animation on it. Oh, I'm going to show you this just very quickly. So if I turn this off now, yeah, you see, I still have animation on the top of Monty. Yeah, the head turn, but there is no animation on this control or the feet because I've deleted it. But I still have animation on the locators, that walk that I baked out earlier. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now, put that back on again, is I'm going to select the pelvis locator and then select the pelvis control and go constrain parent, so the other way around. Then I'm going to select the left foot locator and then I'm going to shift select the left foot and go constrain parent. Then I'm going to select the right foot locator and shift select the right foot and go constrain parent. And now if I play this, Monty's walking, but this time he's controlled by the locators. Now I want the animation not on these locators controlling Monty, I want it on Monty. So what I now have to do is bake this back onto the controllers. So I select the main control, this control, left foot and right foot. And this time I'm going to go edit, keys, bake simulation. I'm going to bake it on 2s. Okay? Okay, so now what I have is I have the animation baked out onto these controllers. If I was to show you them, you'll see that it's no longer just on these locators. So I can delete the locators, and because the animation is now on the controllers, I'll just make sure I'm just showing the polygons and the NURBS curves, and you'll see that now the animation is all baked out, and it's baked out in 2s. I've baked this one out in 2s every second frame, and the feet don't seem to be sliding, so it's all good. And if your feet do slide this way, because if I go kind of hard into this, I can see that it's not exactly flat. So when the foot touches the ground here, so this frame here, this should be a straight line, because it means that, I'll just show you, if I delete these and if I bring this down so it's a straight line, you will see this foot will cease to move. It will be completely locked, because a straight line means it's not moving in that axis whatsoever. Okay, so I've got my animation, it's 56 frames, and I'm just going to select these. I'll make sure none of it's cycling. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this isn't looping because I want it to stop here. What I'm going to try and do is just show you. I'm going to make this character stop. So I'm going to show you that in many ways, when you have the animation like this, the way that I have this character with it wandering away, it's much easier to blend or get the character to do something else. So I'm just going to turn off the polygons. I'm going to select this and I'm going to make sure it's not looping anymore. So I'll go curves, post infinity, make sure it's constant, and then I'm going to come back to this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it stop. So the first thing I'm going to do, so like I said, I'm just going to make this character stop and show you that in many ways it's a little bit less involved than the other method I showed you. I mean, the other method is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're going to maybe have a slightly more complex action or have this move into something more involved like a jump, then I think this is a much easier way of doing it. Okay, so if I want to get him to stop, well, my last frame is in frame 55. So let's say, well, I want to maybe to start slowing down at what? Let's say 31. No, not 31. Let's go a little bit later. Let's say 37. Let's say 37. Okay, so 37. So I'm going to get rid of these frames. And I'm just going to have him, so frame 55, he's essentially stopped. So I'm going to drop him down like this. So that's him, you know. So have that go like this, and this is what he's going to do. He's going to stop. Now you can see that this foot is coming out quite far. So one thing that I have to do is my translate. Remember, this is when the foot's on the ground, and this is the distance it's traveling. You can kind of see it quite clearly. I'm just going to bring this foot back a bit so that I'll turn this around as well and make it left one, just so I can see it. So I'm going to bring it back so it's underneath him now. So there we go. So the foot is underneath him. You've always got to be careful about balance. And another thing is, okay, so this is frame 55. So this is in the right place now. But what I'm going to do too is I'm also going to make this foot arrive before the body slightly. So with this foot selected, I have the foot selected, and I'm going to select all the channels, including all these toe roll, ball roll, all the channels. With the foot selected, I can see this, the foot is still looping. Unfortunately, I thought I'd made this so curves, post infinity, constant. I don't want this looping at all. Just make sure all these are not looping. I thought I had curves, post infinity, constant. I'll just select them all. And curves, post infinity, constant. Okay, that's better. So I'm just going to go into this foot here, and I'm going to have it. You see, just now it kind of. Let's make the show none, nerves, curves, and polygons. So presently the foot kind of comes in like this. Looks a bit strange. So on frame 55, 56, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that come in a little bit faster. So I'm going to select all these, and I am going to maybe have the foot come in about 51. So have it come in a bit sooner. So I'm going to select all these curves here back to about 38. I've got him I started him slowing down at about 38, and using this tool here, after selecting all these channels in this foot, I'm just going to drag this point back to, where is it, 51. So like this, 51. So it'll just happen a little bit sooner like that, you see. So now that is all stopping at 51. See, there goes the foot, 51. It's all there. And it goes down a bit. And this one here, this foot here, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to delete these keys. I'm just going to go in. So this, I'm selecting all the channels of the other foot. this one here. And I'm just deleting all these keys here. And I'm going to make this kind of take a step. I'm going to put this in its final position. So I'll have this make a small step. I will have that come forward, the final resting position, maybe about here. So in a kind of similar position. Let's have a look at this. So something like that. And presently it's just kind of sliding, and I'm going to have this come up a little bit off the ground, like this. Oops. I can see there's something wrong here. I'm just going to make sure this is... this is... I can see that this is not quite where it should be. I've got the heel there. I would probably go to this heel roll on this foot, and I just take this all the way down. So there's very little roll on it. You don't want to. So it's a small step, so it's more like this. Maybe a little bit more than that, actually. And I might even take this back a couple of frames, just so the heel isn't off the ground. Okay, so something like that. And this one, this other foot, I've got it go like this. And I want a ball roll, so there. I can have some ball roll in this one here, so I'll go to the ball roll. And I'm going to have it go up here. That's a little bit, and then a little bit more. Maybe down a bit there. And then I'm going to have this go up a couple of frames. I'll take the ball roll off. And I'm going to angle it slightly this way, forward. So I'm going to have this. And then I'm just going to make sure it drops down. So on the final frame, say 54, I want to make sure this is on the ground. Okay, and I'll make sure it's also not rotated in the X at all. So I've got to make sure this is like this. So we got this, like 1, 2, and oops. One thing you've got to be very careful of when you're doing this is, so that foot should still be on the ground. So while this has to be on the ground while this foot is down. So you just got to be careful when you're making these little steps. This is not one that's part of my, this is something I'm making. Make that sure that's there. Make sure it's not moving at all. So that means this has to be flat. So there, flat. It also needs to be flat until this foot comes down, which is here. So here, let's say I'm going to make it flat until here. I'm going to pull this down. I'm looking at this foot still, dragging it down, and making sure that the Y translate, I'll move this, is not up yet. So making sure this is still down. Actually, maybe I can do it like this. That might be a bit too fast. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so, sometimes people make mistakes. It might be a little bit too... maybe a little bit too fast. Let's see. This is... let's see. 1... let's have a look at this again. 1... I'm going to bend this slightly more in the X. And maybe this, I'll bend it up a wee bit more, maybe this way. Maybe you have more of a, and pull it this way, so the foot kind of goes that. And then the translate Y, I'll maybe pull it out a bit further so it's just a bit softer. So then you have that something like that. And a bit more ball roll on this foot, because I can see, I think I need to bring this ball roll up a bit so I can see it's going up, up. Yeah, I can see I need to bring this forward because I've lost it. And then there, this needs to have ball roll on it still. So there we go. You're kind of just trying to get the shapes right, and then it comes off. Okay, so we've got something a bit more like that. Yeah, that looks better. That looks a bit more. And maybe in terms of the translate, let's say something like this. Anyway, so yeah, I think you get an idea now. And then, of course, then you have to deal with this. So you've got this so far, and he kind of drops down, which looks a bit unusual. So he'll drop down, and the body will also go up. So you'll go one, because this is still all the old cycle. So I could, in essence, bring this and this and this, all of these, back to frame 51. So let's see. So that's from approximately, what frame is it? From 37 to 51. So I'm going to go to 37. I'm going to use this tool again, and I'm just going to bring this back to 51 as well. So this frame will be in 51. So let's see what this looks like. 1, 2, and I'm going to take this now onto here on the translate. I'm going to make this go less far down, so I'll just drop this back a bit so he's a bit higher up, because that looks a bit weird. And then I'm going to raise him up a little bit like this, and I'll take this off. Let's see, so we've got this kind of thing. And I'll also, this is going to 51, so I'm going to kind of drop these down as well. I might drop this whole thing down just a little bit. Oops, this one here. So we got, that's almost there, you know. So essentially, you get the idea. You know, you can get a bit of a, you can get a character to stop quite easily. I mean, this is a little bit poppy, it's not perfect, and you know, you would want some, maybe a little bit forward and backward action on this as well. Is it just, you know, I'd probably want to push him forward a little bit, and then maybe back a little bit. So all these things just help make the animation seem a little bit more, yeah. But I think you get the idea. You can get a character to stop, and you know, you can make it look quite realistic, and it isn't too much effort. Okay, I hope you find